Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. As we conclude with Part 10, Ceremonies of the Order 4, from Cryptic Masonry, a Manual of the Council by Albert G. Mackey. Constitutional rules founded on the ancient landmarks and usages of Cryptic Masonry. 1. When the most puissant is absent from the Grand Council, the chair shall be taken by the Deputy Grand Master. If both are absent, the Grand Principal Conductor of the Works must take the chair. If all these officers are absent, the Senior Past Grand Officer, not less in dignity than a Past Grand Principal Conductor of the Works, must preside. If no such Past Grand Officer be present, the duty of presiding will devolve on the thrice illustrious of the oldest council present. 2. When the thrice illustrious of a subordinate council is absent, his duties must be performed by the illustrious Hiram of Tyre. If both be absent, by the principal conductor of the works. If he likewise be absent, the chair must be taken by a past thrice illustrious of the council. But if no such officer be present, the council cannot be opened. The warrant of constitution is granted to the thrice illustrious Grand Master, the illustrious Hiram of Tyre, and the principal conductor of the works, and to their successors in office, and to none else, and none else can lawfully act. 3. No officer of a grand or subordinate council can be recognized as such until he has been installed. 4. Every officer holds on to his office until his successor has been installed. 5. No officer can resign his office after he has been installed, nor can any election be held, except at the constitutional convocation for that purpose, unless by dispensation. 6. No council can, at an extra convocation, alter or expunge the proceedings of a regular one. 7. No council can interfere in the business of another council or give the degrees to candidates who have been accepted by other councils without their consent. 8. The degrees of Royal and Select Master, when conferred in a chapter of Royal Archmasons, are illegal and irregular, and no council can recognize persons who have so received the degrees, nor can any Royal or Select Master sit in a chapter while these degrees are being thus irregularly conferred. 9. The degrees of Royal and Select Master can only be conferred on worthy Royal Archmasons. 10. No candidate can receive the council degrees who is deformed, maimed, or imperfect in his limbs. 11. No candidate can be elected to receive the degrees, nor Select Master affiliated in any council, without the unanimous consent of all the members present. 12. All ballotings for candidates and trials of companions must take place in the Select Master's degree. But a Royal Master may be tried in the Royal Master's degree, yet the final vote shall be taken in a council of Select Masters. 13. None but Select Masters can be permitted to make any motion, vote, or join in any debate. 14. Every subordinate council, as well as every member of the same, has the right of appeal to the Grand Council, whose decision shall be final. 15. Every council must meet at least once in every 3 months, and no council can suspend its convocations unless by dispensation from the Grand Council or presiding Grand Officer. 16. No council of Royal Masters can be opened unless there be 5 Royal Masters present. 17. No council of Select Masters can be opened unless there be 9 Select Masters present. 18. In conferring the Select degree, not more than 27 Select Masters should be present. If there be more, they are to be constructively considered as absent, and must take no part in the work. 19. Although the use of the veils of a chapter in working the Select degree is usual and convenient, it should be discountenanced as irregular and destructive of the symbolism of the degree. No Select Council should work with less than the required number of 9 archers. 20. No council can be opened or held except by the authority of a warrant of constitution granted by a Grand Council or a dispensation issued by a most puissant Grand Master. 21. No council in one state where there is a Grand Council can work under a warrant granted by the Grand Council of another state. 22. No warrant or dispensation for the opening of a new council can be granted except upon the petition of 9 Select Masters. 23. The election of officers in a subordinate council must be held at the stated convocation, which is at the meeting next preceding the festival of St. John the Evangelist, and the installation must take place as soon after the election as possible. Where from any cause the election has not been held at the stated period, a dispensation from the most puissant will be required for holding it at any subsequent period. 24. No council can suspend its bylaws. 25. There can be no appeal from the decision of the presiding officer of a council to the council. The Grand Council can alone reverse such decision. 26. It is requisite that at least 3 subordinate councils should unite to form and constitute a Grand Council in any state or territory. And when a Grand Council has been so formed, it becomes the supreme authority as to cryptic masonry in that state or territory. 27. All documents relating to cryptic masonry must be dated from the last year of the building of King Solomon's temple, at which time the royal and select degrees are supposed by their legend to have been instituted. The temple was completed in the year of the world 3000 or 1000 years before the birth of Christ, and the number 1000 must therefore be added to the current year to obtain the true date. In reference to that sacred deposit which it was the object of the select degree to preserve, this date is characterized as Anno Depositionis, or in the year of the deposit. Thus, the year of the Common Era, 1870, should in a document of cryptic masonry be designated as Anno Depositionis, or in the year of the deposit, 2870. History of the establishment of the council degrees in America. 40 years ago, there were very earnest discussions on the subject of the origin and jurisdiction of the degrees of Royal and Select Master. At that time, there were 3 authorities under whom those degrees were conferred in the United States. First, under Grand Councils in some of the states. Secondly, under Grand Chapters as in Maryland and Virginia. Thirdly, under the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree of the Ancient and Accepted Rite, as in South Carolina. This diversity of authority was undoubtedly dependent on an uncertainty of origin. The degrees were here, but few knew whence they came, nor by whom they had been originally introduced. But an attempt on the part of the Grand Chapter of Maryland in the year 1826 to assume jurisdiction and authority over these degrees led to investigations into their history. In February 1827, a committee of most able and competent companions made a report on this subject to the Grand Chapter of South Carolina, in which the history of the origin of these degrees is so fully discussed that the valuable information it imparts had better be given in the very words of the report itself. The committee appointed at the last stated convocation of the Grand Royal Arch Chapter in May last to take into consideration and report upon the propriety and expediency of the different Grand Royal Arch. Chapters of the several states respectively assuming jurisdiction and authority over the Royal and Select Masters degrees, and to which committee were referred the proceedings of the Grand Royal Arch Chapter of Maryland upon the subject, respectfully ask leave to state that they have made extensive and careful investigation into the subjects referred to their consideration, and they offer the following statement as the result of their inquiries. They have ascertained that the respectable brothers and companions, Dr. F. Dalcho, Dr. Isaac Auld, Dr. James Moultrie, Sr., and Moses C. Levy, Esquire, with many others, received these degrees in Charleston in February 1783 in the Sublime Grand Lodge of Perfection then established in this city, Charleston, of which body 3 of the above-named brothers are still living, venerable for their years and warm attachment to the glorious cause of Freemasonry, and highly respected and esteemed in the community where they have so long and so honorably sojourned, and they are still members of the same sublime body. Your committee have further ascertained that at the original establishment of the Grand Council of Princes of Jerusalem in this city, on the 20th of February 1783, by the illustrious brothers Joseph Myers, Barend M. Spitzer, and A. Forst, Deputy Inspectors General from Frederick II, King of Prussia, Brother Myers then deposited in the archives of the said Grand Council of the Princes of Jerusalem certified copies of the said degrees from Berlin in Prussia, which were to be under the future guidance and fostering protection of the government of the above-named presiding body. The above-named 3 respectable brethren and companions are and have steadily been members and officers of the said body of Princes of Jerusalem. Their evidence, therefore, must be conclusive upon these points. Your committee are informed that the above-named Brother Myers, previously to his return to Europe, while pursuing his mercantile concerns, resided sometime in several of the cities of Virginia and Maryland, where he communicated a knowledge of the degrees in question. The committee further state that the Grand Officers and the Sublime Council of Inspectors General have been, since 1783, steadily in the habit of conferring the degrees in question under their authority in the southern and western states. Your committee have seen and perused the first copy of these degrees that ever came to America, and old copies of charters that have been returned by councils in states where grand councils have been formed, and the bodies surrendering have taken other charters for conferring the degrees from such grand councils of royal and select masters thus formed. From these statements, the Grand Royal Arch Chapter will readily perceive that these degrees have been under a regular and independent Masonic protection and authority for more than 46 years, and that they were thus circumstanced in the United States of America at a period long antecedent to the establishment of Grand Royal Arch chapters, or even of chapters of Royal Arch Masons in any part of the world. As corroborative of these statements, it may be mentioned that in a manuscript record of Brother Peter Snell, who was in 1827 a member of the Supreme Council, is contained the following memorandum. Supreme Council Chamber, Charleston, South Carolina, February 10, 1827. I hereby certify that the detached degrees called Royal and Select Master or Select Masters of 27 were regularly given by the Sublime Grand Lodge of Perfection, No. 2 in the United States of America, established by Brother Isaac de Costa in Charleston in February 1783, one of the original members of which, most illustrious Brother Moses C. Levy, is still alive and a member of it to this day, without ceasing to be so for a day. And further, that at the first establishment of a Grand Council of Princes of Jerusalem in Charleston in February 1783, by the illustrious Deputy Inspectors General, Joseph Myers, B.M. Spitzer, and A. Forst, Brother Myers, who succeeded Brother de Costa after his decease, deposited a certified copy of the degrees from Berlin in Prussia to be under the guidance and fostering protection of the government of the above Grand Council of Princes of Jerusalem. Brother Moses Holbrook, who was Grand Commander of the Supreme Council at Charleston in 1829, has copied this statement of Snell into a manuscript ritual of the degrees, which he deposited in the archives of the Supreme Council and which is now in the possession of a past officer. He has also added in his own hand the following comment. Brother Myers, shortly after this, February 20th, 1788, resided sometime in Norfolk, Richmond, and Baltimore previous to his removal to Europe, and he communicated a knowledge of these degrees to a number of brethren in those cities. The original copy is still in my keeping, and agreeably to the obligations of the same and the grand constitutions governing those degrees, viz. Royal and Select Masters of 27, it is correct and lawful to give them either to Sublime Masons who have arrived to the Knights of the 9th Arch, 13th degree, or to Companions of the 3rd Arch, Royal Arch Masons. Finally, the Reverend Frederick Dalcho, who was at one time Grand Commander of the Southern Supreme Council, in the appendix to his Masonic orations, published in 1803, after giving a list of the regular degrees of the Ancient and Accepted Rite, adds that most of the inspectors are in possession of a number of detached degrees given in different parts of the world, and which they generally communicate, free of expense, to those brethren who are high enough to understand them. And among these detached degrees he mentions Select Masons of 27, which is what we now call the Select Master. From these statements, then, we gather the following results as to the history of the introduction of these degrees into the United States. 1. The degrees of Royal and Select Master were originally brought to this country by an Inspector General of the Ancient and Accepted Rite in the year 1783, deposited by him in the archives, and placed under the control of the Council of Princes of Jerusalem, which was organized in the city of Charleston, South Carolina, in that year. 2. These degrees were at first conferred in Charleston by the Council of Princes of Jerusalem as detached degrees, or what in more modern phrase would be called side degrees of the Ancient and Accepted Rite. 3. They were disseminated over the whole country by agents or representatives of this rite, who conferred them on any qualified persons whom they pleased to select, but always with the administration of a pledge of allegiance to the Supreme Council of the Ancient and Accepted Rite. 4. Charters were granted by these agents of the Supreme Council for the establishment of councils of royal and select masters in different states, which councils subsequently united in the formation of state grand councils and threw off their allegiance to the Supreme Council of the Ancient and Accepted Rite. I do not believe that charters were ever granted immediately and directly by the Supreme Council. I think that they were always issued in its name by its agents, who were empowered so to do by a general warrant. Thus, I have been enabled to trace the original councils of Alabama to the action of John Barker, who was an authorized agent of the Supreme Council. Perhaps more work was done in this way by Jeremy L. Cross, under the same claim, than by any other man in the United States. In this manner, the control of these degrees has been gradually but permanently taken from the Supreme Council of the Ancient and Accepted Rite, and they have now become a constituent part of what is beginning to be called the American Rite, to which indeed they properly belong, since they are absolutely necessary for the proper illustration of the Royal Arch degree. The Inspectors General of the Ancient and Accepted Rite, at least in the Southern Council, still claim, although they very seldom exercise it, the right to confer these degrees on qualified persons, and it can hardly be denied that royal and select masters, so made, would be legal and regular. To doubt it would be to throw suspicion on the legality of every council and every select master of the present day, since they derive their existence from founders originally made in this way by inspectors general. If the fountain is defiled, we can hardly expect that the streams which flow from it should be pure. This connection of the degrees of royal and select master with the ancient and accepted rite will readily account for the resemblance which is found in these degrees in phraseology and symbolism to that rite. Their legends, however, assimilate them more closely to the Royal Arch of the York and American Rites than to the corresponding Knights of the Ninth Arch of the Ancient and Accepted Rite. Hence, in making them the 8th and 9th degrees of the American Rite, it must be admitted that Masonic ritualists have put them in the right place. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.